Technology is the most powerful change in the world of education.
Everything changes.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies in Education podcast, delivered to you by Clever Books Company. Dear listeners, thank you for joining Emerging Technologies in Education podcast. And today we have James as a guest. Hi, James. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. So, I'm honored to have James on this podcast because he has a lot of valuable information to share. So we're going to make this podcast as informative as possible. And I'm going to give the word to James in first place. So let us know which country he's from, what he's doing in life, and anything he would like to tell us about himself.
My name is James. I'm from Ireland. I'm from a place called Limerick in Ireland. I'm a primary school teacher. I graduated from college, Mary Immaculate College, in 2012, and I've been teaching since. So this is my 6th year teaching. From a young age, I always had an interest in IT. I remember when my parents got the first computer and I crashed it many times trying to do different things on it. But my parents, thank God, they were very patient with me. And over time, I got better and I improved. I kind of really taught myself a lot of what I know about IT. After graduating from Mary I did an online course in computer programming with Scratch. This is a programming language for children, really, that was designed by people in MIT in America. When I did this, prior to this, I had an interest in IT, but this really kind of fanned the flames. I got really interested in how IT can be used in the classroom to teach and inspire children and how it can be used to really bring a lesson to life. Following on from that, I learned how to code in Java. I did a bit of web design. I worked with some of the Adobe programs. And all of this really built up and inspired me to take on a master's in the same college again, Mary Immaculate College. The master's that I did was on ICT in education, and it was a 2-year part-time master, so I was still teaching in the classroom while doing it at the weekends. In the first year, we had to do an applied research project. I did my project on Scratch and how it affects children's attainment in mathematics, in particular their tables. It proved to be an interesting project, and there was a positive effect on the children's tables. In the second year, I had to do a dissertation. Initially, I was planning on doing my dissertation on Scratch again because I knew a lot about it and I had a lot of research done on it. But I was always curious, kind of push the boundaries and do something maybe a bit more innovative. So I stumbled across the technology 3D printing, which internationally may be quite a popular technology, but from my point of view in Ireland anyway, I hadn't really come across much to do with 3D printing. I had a basic idea of what it was, and I kind of knew a bit about how it worked, but nothing major. So I took a chance and I emailed about 30 3D printer companies, and one of them, a company based in England, Ultimaker, they got back to me. Now, my idea was to do the dissertation on 3D printing and how it would affect children's attainment within the art curriculum. But I wasn't willing to go and spend the bones of €2,000 on a 3D printer, so I wanted to try and get the loan of one to see could I test it in the classroom and justify its purchase. Ultimaker were very kind to me, and they said that they'd be happy to loan me the printer for the 6 weeks or so that I needed it. So I was eternally grateful for them. Just after Christmas, the 3D printer arrived out, and we engaged in a 6-week intervention with the children, whereby they were creating 3D models online on a free program called Tinkercad. And then their projects were printed off and the children were given the projects to interact with in real life. The results of the study were very positive. The children's attainment in what we have in Ireland, a strand called Shape and Space, improved massively, and also so did their spatial awareness. Now, this spatial awareness, I can hypothesize, led to an improvement in algebra, which was exhibited in the pre and post tests. And this improvement in algebra then facilitated an improvement in other areas in maths, as well as allowing the children to gain confidence in their ability in mathematics. The children's ability to problem solve improved, not only in mathematics, but also in their ability to solve problems using IT. Prior to the study, the children were very confident about their ability to solve problems when something goes wrong with a piece of IT, like an iPad or a computer, but they couldn't explain necessarily how they solved those problems. Post the intervention, the children were able to describe to me in a focus group setting a step-by-step approach to how they would solve a problem, whereas before they had been smashing buttons and closing down apps and resetting things and stuff like that. They had a much more structured approach and much better idea how they could go about solving the problems post the intervention. Children were highly motivated throughout, and there was even children who mightn't necessarily be motivated in class, more motivated for outdoor pursuits, who were more engaged in class throughout the project and were better behaved as well. It was interestingly, contrary to a lot of the literature that I had read, the children's ability to work in a group was it was initially difficult for the children because they wanted to take ownership of the project. They knew that they were going to get this 3D figurine or figure that they were allowed to take home, and so they were reluctant to take other people's suggestions and ideas within their groups. As the project progressed, they became much more enthusiastic and much more able to work in a team, take on other people's ideas, and compromise, which was a good thing, which is a skill that that we all have to learn and that we need in our lives at some stage. Compromise. Children enjoyed making designs, in particular, that would be seen by others. For one of the projects, we made maths manipulative that would be used in the junior infant class. It was a higher level class, so we're making the projects, and they were really enthusiastic and excited about the fact that their project would be used in another classroom by children, that those children would get to see their projects and hopefully be impressed by what they had made. The dissertation was stressful overall, in particular because prior to it, as I said, I knew I had a basic concept of what a 3D printer was and how it worked, but I'd never used one. I'd never even used the software that that one uses while using a 3D printer, and so it was quite stressful. But I had to think on my feet. I had to use Google and search and try and find free software that would work on the computers that I had, but it all paid off ultimately. I noticed in the dissertation that there was a lot of transferable skills as well from the software that we were using. There was the copy and paste button, simple things like that. But there was also a lot of things that I had noticed in Scratch, I've noticed in Microsoft Office, I've noticed in Paint and other things like that that are available on computers today, that the children were able to transfer to other programs and to use in other walks of life.
That sounds really interesting, James. I have like a massive experience in technology and education.
Really,
And
I get
elaborated a little bit on this and a little bit on that, and I think it's an impressive experience. And you just started being a primary teacher. Lucky your kids are, because they're gonna get a lot of exposure to technology. Are you like often trying new things that's coming up in the education technology?
Well, I like to try and, as I said earlier, I was initially going to do my dissertation on Scratch, but I suppose for my own sake, I wanted to do something new, like we're saying, something to try something different and see how it worked in the class. And I was taking a bit of a chance because it was something that I didn't know a whole pile about. But I had to self-teach. I had to teach myself how to use it because there was no one going to do it for me. But I think that what I find is that a lot of skills, basic skills on computers, can be learned through careful use of Google and particularly YouTube. There's tutorials for most things. For what a teacher needs to know, there's tutorials for most things on YouTube, and you can get a basic level of information then and build upon that. And oftentimes, no matter how good you are, the children can overtake you and they can show you stuff. So the more you teach, the more you learn, which is an interesting side of the thing as well. I think that oftentimes adults, more so than children, are reluctant to try new things in relation to ICT and are almost afraid that the piece of technology in front of them might explode or combust if they do something wrong. But in reality, things can go wrong and things will go wrong, but most problems can be fixed, especially nowadays. So I think that it's important for teachers to engage in teaching themselves how to use new technology, how to put another spin or to bring something new to the classroom that the children haven't seen before, because daily children are meeting new things on iPads, computers, phones, laptops. And we in Ireland, we say that we have to try and appeal to the child's sense of wonder and awe, and that's, I think, with technology, that's becoming increasingly difficult because they're becoming so familiar with technology. So we need to keep upskilling, keep self-training, keep talking to other teachers who do engage with ICT and get tips from them and swap and trade. And I think a forum or something like that would be very valuable for that, for young and old teachers. I notice myself when I'm in schools, oftentimes teachers, when they have small problems with their laptop or computer, they come straight to me. And sometimes I can fix it on the spot, sometimes I'll have to tease it out. But when I can fix it on the spot and when I show the teachers how to solve the problem that they have, they often say, "Oh, I could have done that myself if I'd known." And in our in Ireland, anyway, we talk about the digital divide, and often the digital divide is based on economic factors, that people can't afford a laptop and so they don't develop computer skills. But I think that it can also be applied to confidence, and people like me who are confident in their ability to use ICT, our ICT skills improve daily because we're solving different problems for other people. But people who don't have the confidence to try and solve the problem themselves first and go asking for help immediately, their ICT skills actually disimprove because they become less confident and they lean more on the other person who they deem to be better than them. When in reality, whenever I fix a computer in school, I'm just trying different things, experimenting, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we have to call a guy or a woman and get them to fix it for us. But oftentimes it does work. And then they think that I have some kind of natural talent or natural ability for this, but I don't. In fact, all I'm doing is Googling stuff, trying new things, experimenting. So I think that teachers should not only try and explore their computer and work through different problems and just engage with it in general, but also upskilling. It keeps you up to date. It keeps you more informed about how you can solve different problems and different approaches to different problems as well. So I think it's definitely something that is continual professional development is something that is very important and something which should be supported by individual governments also.
That sounds really an interesting topic that you just touched about the continuous professional development. So obviously you are the person who is into technology, and and you are able, already you're coming from the generation who is able to find information online from multiple sources, analyze, bring it all together, find what is relevant to yourself and to the situation you're in, and find the solution. It could be a different mindsets that people can do that, cannot do that, and so on. Well, coming back to the continuous professional development, and as you're saying you're in Ireland, now, do you get any specific like help and support as a primary school teacher in terms of continuous professional development, and especially in the technology sphere? And do you learn on regular basis on something like new technologies like mixed reality, like augmented or virtual reality? And do you have any opportunity to use it?
Yeah, well, I suppose we are in Ireland. We are encouraged to engage in continual professional development, but there's little incentive to engage with it. Now, there are, during the summertime when we have our holidays, there are courses that go on. There are approximately 20 hours, and for completing a course, we are allowed 3 days during the year that we can take off at our own discretion. So I mean that is an incentive. But other than that, there is little incentive to engage in CPD. What I would say is that from the teachers that I have met, teachers are among the most caring group, and they're very diligent in their professionalism. They want to be the best that they can be. They want to do the best that they can for their children. And so I think that teachers do generally engage with CPD. But then again, I also think that governments and employers can take advantage of this earnest approach by teachers, in that they will benefit from the CPD engaged by the teacher, but not necessarily reward the teacher in a material fashion, which isn't necessarily right. But that, I suppose, those are the cards that we've been dealt. In any way, I will continue to engage in CPD, and I know that my fellow teachers will. It's just the nature of a teacher, really. I think that they will constantly try to better themselves and improve themselves, because they feel responsible, and because they want to do the best for the young people that sit in front of them every day.
And I think it's also connected to the lifetime learning. Like if you're the curious person and want to learn new things rather than keeping at the same level, then you would probably go and search for new initiatives for you to develop yourself professionally, personally, and so on, any sphere that you're going to find important, right?
Oh, I think definitely. And I know that in schools as well, there are so many subjects that we teach in primary school that there are many different areas in which you can engage in CPD. You could do it in art, drama, music, PE, English, maths, religion. There's many different avenues and areas that you could engage, or special education teaching is a massive one as well, that you could engage with. So oftentimes, because in Ireland anyway, we don't have IT as a curricular subject, so often it can be kind of pushed aside in favour of something that's seen as more valuable, perhaps. Which, I mean, everyone has their interests and everyone has their priorities, so there's no problem with that. But at the same time, I suppose I enjoy ICT in particular, so that's what I engage in. And if we're all engaging in something, I suppose it's not the end of the world. But I think, for me, I know that my brain nearly stops working when I'm not learning something new. I need to be learning something new. It keeps me fresh, and it keeps me concentrated, and it keeps me focused. Sorry, not concentrated. It keeps me focused. So it's beneficial for me as well, and it's something that I enjoy. Gets me out of the house, and it stops me from watching rubbish on television every evening.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think learning something is a lot better time investment than watching TV. And I
Yeah.
have a question to you. And like you are so curious about CPD and about the technology. So as a teacher in Ireland, which resources would you follow or watch or read, any blogs or anything to keep yourself on track on new technologies coming up that are available there on free or charge basis for education that you can implement in the classroom right now, for example?
I suppose mainly what I use is YouTube. I follow a couple of educators on YouTube that will kind of keep me up to date. Really, what I like to do is I like to follow IT on its own, and then when I come across something that I see as being valuable, something that I can see being implemented effectively in the classroom, then I bring it into the classroom. So I don't particularly follow educational IT. I follow IT. I have an interest in IT in general, and then when I think of a practical application, or see something that I think would be valuable for the children to learn, then I would bring it into the classroom. And I know that you mentioned augmented reality in the past. I think, or previously, I think that there is a big link between AR and 3D printing, which I was talking about earlier, because you have the 3D design. And really, one of the big things that from the literature that I studied was that the rotation of a 3D design is very good for the children, because they learn pattern, and they can use this pattern then to help them visualize in mathematics and try and figure out solutions to problems.
Yeah,
Now, I think that this could potentially also be applied to literacy, which is something which I'd like to investigate in the future, because literacy is reading, writing, and spelling is a learning of patterns, because you're learning the pattern of the sounds made by the letters, the pattern of the words in a sentence. Pattern there's a massive amount of pattern in literacy as well. So I would like in the future to maybe look into how this development of 3D spatial awareness can help children improve their literacy in the future as well, which I think would be interesting. And just on a side note as well, I suppose AR was also one of the things that I was considering when I was thinking about the 3D printing. It was just, this was the avenue I went down. So certainly it's some AR is another thing that I would like to look into in the future, because I think AR and VR, they definitely have applications in the classroom, and I look forward to seeing them correctly implemented, whether I'm involved or not. I prefer to be involved, but whether I'm involved or not, I do look forward to seeing them implemented effectively in the classroom and being commonplace in the classroom.
That sounds really interesting. And like, as you've touched the augmented reality, and this is something that's super close to my heart. Do you use augmented reality as a primary school teacher in your class? And if you do, what kind of apps, companies would you recommend?
I haven't gotten the opportunity to use augmented reality yet in the classroom, but I have thought about it. I've thought about in particular using using it for things like maths trails, where the children go around and they look for clues, and these clues could potentially be a maths problem which they solve, which could lead them on to the next clue. I've also thought about books whereby you could have the code or whatever on the book, and the children would scan it to see a book review written by another child. And as I said earlier in my study, I found that the children, when they were doing something for an audience, doing something that someone else would get to see, they were really enthusiastic about it and they put extra effort in. So I think that if you had something like the book reviews, now teachers are extremely creative and they will come up with ways and means to take that simple idea that I have and use it in a multitude of ways. But if you can get the children to create something that someone else will come along and scan and gain information from, not only will they work extra hard in order to have their work impress someone and be valued, but they'll also study the work more carefully, because they know that someone their age, someone from their class, or someone from the class above them, or two classes above them, or whatever, has made this resource, and they find that little bit more interesting, I think, than something that a teacher has made in an ivory tower after school on a Friday evening, when all they want to do is go home. So I think that it is child created content, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing. I totally proud of the podcast we've done today, because it's a bunch of information and a lot of provocative thoughts and a lot of really good experience shared there. Really appreciate that. And yeah, James, thank you very much. I think it's a brilliant, insightful podcast, and listeners will enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everything changes.